Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, we got tragedy. There's a tragedy every day, but there are impactful tragedies, like one in Oklahoma. David Boren, the governor of Oklahoma, former governor, 21st governor, and U.S. senator from Oklahoma, has passed away at the age of 83. It was a long life he lived. However, it's still a tragedy. It's still a tragedy. There's no changing it. But today we'll be talking about the Democratic governor and U.S. senator and the legacy he left behind. And now, in these videos, we don't necessarily have to agree with it. I can tell you, it really does depend if he is a conservative, a yada, yada, yada. He comes from a very... Now, during this time, Oklahoma was a state. It was conservative, but a lot of Democrats, were conservatives that voted for the New Deal Democrats because they were born as Democrats. It's their identity. Then again, they might disagree with the party and its outline, but that's sort of like the people in Alabama in 1940. Like, the people in Alabama did not like FDR, right? FDR, like the Texas Rangers, they were formed in Texas to oppose FDR's renomination by the Democratic Party. What happened to Texas? Well, Texas voted for FDR like 80% all four times. They fall in line eventually. David Boren is a conservative Democrat. So he's a dino Democrat. And coming from a very red state, I would describe Oklahoma during the 1960s. Yeah, it voted for Johnson, LBJ, but probably voted for Johnson because, he's from Texas, from the area, or just, Goldwater was just so bad. But generally during this time, Oklahoma during the late, mid 20th century was a very red state. So we're going to go over this electoral history, starting off with the 1974 election, in which David Boren runs for governor. And he obviously looks like he is going to win that nomination. I'm trying to actually look at the nomination, like the Oklahoma election atlas, so you can actually pull up the primary maps, because I think primaries are also a part of the electoral history, even though they're not the outright election itself. There is runoffs, because Oklahoma is a state where you don't get 50% or the maximum needed. You'll go on to a runoff. And, okay, there we go. So this was the primary result. David Lyle Boren won the counties in red, while his opponent, Clem Rogers McSpadden, he won the counties in blue. Obviously, Boren carrying Oklahoma County, and McSpadden carrying Tulsa County. That was enough for the county to the race to go to a split. Even if Boren won Tulsa County, I think that wouldn't have been enough, because you got to get 50%. That would probably get him up to the 40 percentage point. In order to get them, there's David Hall. David Hall won a couple counties, like 5, 6, 7 counties in the green. But this race went to a runoff, and over here. And it's actually, hang on, am I looking at this correctly? Clem Rogers McSpadden, he won. No. Okay, we have two sources telling us two different things. Election Atlas is saying 37% for Boren, while Wikipedia says 37% for McSpadden. So I'm not necessarily sure who won, but you know what? The two went to a runoff, and we can confirm David Boren won that runoff race. Let's see if there's a Democratic Party runoff. No, there isn't. But yes, obviously, a huge win, and we covered Jim Inhofe last year, I want to believe. But David Boren took out Jim Inhofe, very young back then, but in a landslide, 63%. He carried every county except for Tulsa. There's also the counties, let's see, going back to that map. This county, Washington County, very conservative at the time. You got Noida County and major counties. So those counties ended up voting against David Boren for the future Senator Jim Inhofe, in which Boren overwhelmingly is the winner by a landslide here. More bluer by the Deep South, right? More bluer here, while you could make an argument that it's more lighter because of Tulsa. It's more lighter because of Oklahoma City. These very big red counties itself. 1978. So apparently, Governor Boren does not run for re-election, even though I think I think he could have. Instead, he runs for the United States Senate, and it's in that election where he, of course, is going to win and take over that Senate seat. It was a flip for the Democrats. Looking at the map here, let's see if there's a 1978 United States Senate race for Democrats. Oh, this is the president. We need Republican, Democratic primaries. Okay, perfect. Let's see, 78. Perfect. So this was the two close results, but yeah, it looked... You'll see David Boren overwhelmingly did very well. It was, you got the Edmondson counties up in the corner here, and then you got the Jen Stipe counties. They're in the green. And everywhere else, David Boren is doing great. It was just that area, though, that really was a problem. Ultimately, a big win for David Boren, but that was not enough for him to win the nomination. If I can guarantee you, if it was just an Edmondson versus Boren race, it could have been much more closer. But yes, obviously, they couldn't declare a winner, despite obviously Boren sweeping the primary. So it had to go to a runoff. Democratic Party runoff, 78. And clearly, you'll see Edmondson must be from this area, because he seems to do exceptionally very well over here. I think his best county is this county right here, but obviously, David Boren won the primary 60%. He is nominated, defeating Ed Edmondson, and finally, you can clearly see in 1978, he winning Tulsa County. He swept Tulsa out. This county right here, I'm not so sure what this county is called. It's being so selective here. This county, Payne County. You got Payne. He almost won this county, that's Major County. Once again, we talked about Major County. And the county up here seems to be pretty stubborn. That's Beaver County. I think Governor Boren won that county in his governor race, but couldn't win it that time. But obviously, a good performance for... Oops. My bad. A good performance for the governor. He is now the senator. And this leads us to the 1984 election, in which David Boren carries every county. He wins in a landslide for the nomination. Obviously, he's running for re-election, something that he didn't do in the governor's race. And not surprised, he wins. Although we have zero, and I suppose we don't need to actually look at the 1984. They do have a map here. David Boren, yes, he carried every county. Despite, you got Marshall Luce going against him, but 89% David Boren is the winner. And 75% in the general election. He swept the whole state. You'll see even Tulsa County's in 70%. Now, a lot of the reason why it's up so high, 70% in this big red county, is because he's a conservative, right? He is a dino Democrat, Democrat in name only. He got this county up here in the 90%. That's impressive. 90%. But overall, the Oklahomans really, really love David Boren. He's a guy that they really get along with very well. But yes, he swept the state. It's really the Panhandle that really has a hard time. But then again, Panhandle has always been Republican. 60% is pretty good otherwise. 60% for David Boren on the Panhandle. And he runs for re-election in 1990. Let's see here. 1990. He expands his margin. Now Tulsa is in the 80%. Oklahoma City, Oklahoma County, 80% Democratic. This county right here, Cameron County, 70%. So he's blowing out in great popularity in Oklahoma. 1990, you'll see here, he wins the Democratic nomination every single county, beating Virginia Jenner and Manuel Ybarra, 84.30%. Really no opposition. And really, he carries every county. Precinct results. Look at the precinct. Not one city. Guys, can you see a city? Oh, this one. One right here. Otherwise, it's solid Democrat. It's not even deep south. But yes, David Boren, no surprise, he wins in that said race. And I believe what ends up happening next, I think, is a misconduct. Yes, he's even praised by Nelson Mandela. He was iconic, but let's go ahead and read a little bit about this. So yes, in March 2015. So okay, this was a long time ago. 2019. I want to believe Boren was investigated after allegations of his serious misconduct arose at the university. So he would go to the university, obviously. And so obviously this comes from article 2015 University of Oklahoma Sigma Alpha Epelson Racism Incident, known as SAEOU Racist Chant Incident, occurred on March 7th, 2015, when members of the University of Oklahoma chapter of Sigma Alpha Epelson were filmed performing a racist song that used the word "you know what" and referenced Jim Crow. After a video of the incident was published, the SAEOU chapter was closed and 2 of its members were expelled. And, okay, this actually has nothing to do with Boren, but obviously, this ultimately had something. Well, he was a part of the University of Oklahoma during that time, but he has passed away, leaving. Obviously, he is a treasure. I would say for his conservative activism, I would think highly of him. We need Democrats like him, common sense Democrats. The Democratic Party today lacks it. They don't even have what it takes anymore. It's sad, but they chose to be that party. And unless they learn otherwise, they're going to continue to be the party of failure. They're leaving. They once were the party of common sense to a point at some eras in history, but not anymore. Not anymore. But anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.